إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير هادي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل دلالة في النار. ثم أما بعد يا أيها الذين آمنوا, O believers, what are you going to do after you've already made history? What are you going to do after you've already made your mark in history? What will you do now that your ummah has already made its mark on history and been making its mark on history ever since it was an ummah? You're part of the ummah that started in Mecca when the Messenger of Allah ﷺ taught the people under the oppression of the Quraysh. He taught the people the Tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for 13 years. And then he made hijrah to Al-Madinah. And then from there, spread Islam. What are you going to do? Your ummah's been making history all along. This is the ummah that took over the known world, Rome and Persia. So what are you going to do when you've already made history? It is as though when some people think that their history begins on the block. Like they think that this is their history. They have a very narrow view of history. What are you going to do when you're part of the ummah that walked into Spain and controlled it for 800 years? When you already made history, then you're supposed to build on that history. If that history was built upon a belief system, you're supposed to build on that belief system. If it's built upon what the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said and what he did, you're supposed to build on that. And one who will not build on that history, one who will not build on that legacy, and is looking for some other kind of legacy, is going to get lost. So today in Camden, New Jersey, and in other places, we're going to talk about violence, murder, and drugs. To the ummah that already has an answer. To the ummah that's living in the middle of something that's already been eradicated from their world and only came back to their world when they dropped their guard of their belief. Only came back to their world when they began to copy the ones who were using the drugs and the murder and violence as a power play, as a way of life. Yani, being a mobster, being a gangster, being a gang man, having some other kind of code besides the code of La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah. Having some other code. Yo, gangster, you can't put no code next to that code. You ain't got no code with this code. This is the life. This is the word. This is kalima tayyiba. And no one can put another word, nor symbol, nor sign, nor act, nor family, nor name behind mu'min or Muslim. Yo, gangster, you lost your mind? You haven't got another word. Your word is gone because your history began maybe with Capone in them. But this history began when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Adam to the earth and ordered him to tell his children that there's no deity in worship, no deity in haqq. that you should worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So yo, gangster, you don't have no place to stand. Especially if you're going to try to wear two hats. The hat of the gangster and the kufi of the Muslim. Or you're going to try to wear the sister mark and you're going to be a gangster. That's a mark against you. And not a mark against this ummah. Because this ummah's history is strong. This ummah's history, its legacy is wonderful. It's great. It's the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And gangster, your days are over. All your weak little plays, your double talking, it's not the word of the Muslim. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. Oh, you who believe, اتق الله. That's the heart of a man, a true man and a true woman. Fears Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You don't get dressed up in the mirror fearing what somebody's going to think about how my stuff is hanging today. Because he fears his Lord. His Lord sees him. His Lord hears him. Huwa yasma' wa yara. That's the heart of a true man. You want some heart? Then let that mark on your head, gangster, be the mark of the one who is pious before his Lord. And don't you be our friend when in the masjid and our enemy when you're in the street. Yo, gangster, check this out. The heart of a true man, when he marries a woman, he marries her with the intent for family and to have children and to raise them. And for that legacy of his children, for them to step forward and truly be free because they only the slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Abdullah, they're his slaves. That means they're not the slaves of any people. Not like you, gangster. You're the slave of everybody who needs a gangster. You're the slave of everybody who needs something slipped in under the table, gangster. So, gangster, this is not the brotherhood you're looking for. So in due time, you're going to go to your grave. No threat from me. I ain't got no gun. I don't even like guns. I'm saying when you face reality, gangster, when you go to your grave, you're going to be asked three things. You're our enemy, gangster. You destroy our call to Islam, gangster. You destroy our code of decency, gangster. We were the ones that brought chivalry to the world. It was no knights in shining armor. It was the believers that had that beauty, that beautiful sympathy for their women. It was the believer who would die for his wife or his daughter or for his young granddaughter. There ain't no chivalry. There was no knights in shining armor. So you want to be Needy and Capone and all them kind of cats? They all diseased dogs. And now you got to the point where you want to call you and your friends dogs. But the believers are men. We're not dogs. The believers are men and not dogs. The believers are brothers and not enemies. The reason the believers come together is because La ilaha illallah, gangster. And no other reason. يقول الله سبحانه وتعالى أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم واعتصموا بحبل الله جميعا ولا تفرقوا واذكروا نعمة الله عليكم إذ كنتم أعداء فألف بين قلوبكم وأصبحتم من نعمته إخوانا وكنتم على شافة حفرة من النار فانقذكم منها كذلك يبين الله لكم آياته لعلكم تهتدون. Listen to this, gangster. Hold fast, all of you, to the rope of Allah, and be not divided. The rope of Allah. You know what that is, gangster? That is the Quran, which you don't know anything about, except maybe to make some sound from your mouth. Except the sound of your mouth. And not just the gangsters. You oil seller who be smearing your oil on these women's hands in the street. You're an enemy to this dawah. You're an enemy to the ummah. You're an enemy to the believers. You're an enemy to decency. You may not mean it, but it's all true. It's like being two-faced. It's nifaq. It's giving the wrong idea about the beauty of the religion. Hold fast, all of you, to the rope of Allah, and be not divided among yourselves. And remember Allah's favor on you. Because you sitting here, gangster, you got part of Allah's favor. For you were enemies one to another,